This will be another lesson in our series on animal behavior. We'll be using the scientific method to study questions of animal behavior. Here's our question for the day. Why do male birds sing? Now, not all bird species have males that sing, but there are many species of songbirds, and it is the males that principally sing their songs. It raises a question, why are they doing this? And again, as we saw in the last lesson, presumably lots of animal behavior, especially if it's species-wide behavior, is thought to serve some kind of purpose, some purpose that either promotes survival or reproduction. So take a moment, pause the video if you wish, to think about why would males sing songs? Perhaps you came up with something like this: to attract females. You might have known this already. So how would we test this hypothesis? Consider an experiment like you see here. First of all, the hypothesis. We're going to rewrite the hypothesis in the form of A causing B. So male song causes female visits, right? So that would be that the singing attracts females. Here we have our female. We've set up two areas. In one area, there is nothing here. In another area, there is a male bird that is singing. Of course, the male and female would be of the same species here. And so what we would do is we would measure the number of visits that females in the area would make to each of these areas. And if we break this down even more, we would say the variable then is bird song. That's the factor of interest. Notice it's our A factor down here. And we would say the condition with the variable then is the experimental condition, and the condition that lacks the variable is the control condition. Now, if you think this is a good experiment, we need to be careful here. There is a serious problem with this experiment. Again, pause the video here if you want a chance to think about what could be a problem with the experiment as it is designed right here. And I'll give you a hint. Ask yourself, if in fact females do enter this area more than the control area, could there be more than one reason for that? And indeed, there is a problem, and the problem is there are two variables in the experiment shown here: the bird song and also the presence of the male. So it could be that the female entering this area more often than the control, she does so because she's attracted to the song, but it also might be that she's attracted to the sight of the male bird itself. So we've got two differences between this condition on the left and the condition on the right. So at this point then, again, pause the video if you want a chance to think about how we could fix this experiment. We don't want to have two differences between our experimental and control condition. We just want one difference. Because if there are two differences, we don't know which variable is causing the result. Perhaps you thought of something like this. Maybe we could remove the male bird altogether and just have a recording of the male's song. So now the experimental condition would consist of a recorder, or a DVD player with some speakers, and we are playing the song, and then in the control condition, again, there's nothing there. And again, we would measure female visits. As it turns out, experiments like this have been conducted, and females do indeed visit the area where they hear male song more often than control regions. So again, we have hidden the recorder here, so she's not seeing a male, she's only hearing the song. Now, it would be interesting to have all three conditions, and we would predict if she's only paying attention to the song, so to the sound of the song, then she would, when given a choice of these three areas, she would visit the two areas on the ends here equally, right? And the amount of visits to those two areas would be more than the control. If she's also extra attracted to the sight of the male, then she would visit the one on the left here more than the one that just has the recording of the song. So by having three conditions here, you could also examine the influence of the physical presence of the male as well. So there is indeed evidence that supports the hypothesis that male birds sing to attract mates. If we restate again the hypothesis in the form of A causes B, male bird song causes female visits. But while we have evidence for attracting mates, could there be another explanation for why males are singing? There might be 2 good reasons or 3 good reasons, right? So in nature, we have to then, if there are multiple purposes for some animal behavior, we've got to do separate independent experiments to test each of these possible hypotheses. So can you think of another possibility why males might be singing besides attracting a female? Go ahead and pause the video here if you want to give yourself time to think about that. Perhaps you thought of something like to guard a territory. Maybe male singing is an attempt to define a certain territory, to keep other competing males away. Well, consider this experiment then. Notice we have a control condition and another area with male song here, but instead of measuring the behavior of females, we're measuring the behavior of other males in the environment. And when you do this experiment, you do find that males enter the silent region more often than the region that has the recording of a male song. In this graph, we actually see some real results from an experiment. Mean number of intrusions, that would be that the male enters into a certain area. And here we see low numbers of intrusions when there's a song playing, a male song playing, and higher numbers of visitations or intrusions when the area is silent. So what we've seen here is that we've got evidence now for 2 purposes for male song. One, to attract females, and to repel other males. That's the guarding territory idea. And both are supported by experimental evidence. So when we study animal behavior, a particular behavior may have multiple functions, but we would have to test those different hypotheses, those different purposes for the behavior with separate experiments.